Hello everyone, and welcome to the first battle report of this channel. Now, this is probably going to be one of the worst battle reports you will ever see. I'll get to that in a minute. If you enjoy watching battle reports, you do it to learn things, to see painted armies, all that stuff. This probably isn't going to be the battle report for you. This battle report is for the sole purpose of teaching people the absolute basics and where to go with picking their units. Now, eventually we will have battle reports on this channel with other players and painted armies, non-painted armies, whatever. But for this battle report, it's going to be for teaching and how to choose an army. So in this will be the Space Marines versus the Orcs. The Space Marines is part of the Learning to Play 40K series I'm currently doing. We'll have a Space Marine Commander. We'll have 5 Tactical Marines with a las cannon, 5 Tactical Marines with a flamer, 5 Legion of the Damned, and a Land Speeder with Typhoon missile launchers. This is a simple 500-point list, nothing too special. For the Orcs, we have 30 boys. We have 1 rocket and 1 knob with a power claw. We have 10 Gretchen with a runt herder. We have 1 level 1 weird boy, and we have 5 mega knobs. So I'll get back with the models that we'll be using in a second. Okay, so one of the main things to do when testing out an army is to simply use things to represent models. So for example, we have a piece of paper. We write Marine on the piece of paper. And we just rip it out. Just Marine. So that can be your stand-in for a basic model. You then keep doing it, and you have Marine, 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 Marine. Then you have your las cannon, goes in that squad. You have your flamer in this squad. You have your leader in this squad. So this could be 2 simple Marine squads. So I'm going to go over what I'm going to be using to represent each army, and I'll be back. Okay, so I've gone over what I'm going to be using as the basic Marines. I do apologize for the lighting. It's kind of not really set up for Warhammer. So we have a Marine squad. Get these out of the way. We have a simple lid that is larger size to represent the base of something like a skimmer. So this is going to be our land speeder. Very simple. We have little wooden just tokens, I guess. They're for board games, stuff like that. You can get these at hardware stores. You can get them at craft stores, stuff like that. These are going to be the Legion of the Damned. This one has a little mark on it. That's going to be the Melt-A-Gun. This one has 2 marks on it. That's going to be the Multi-Melta. And this one has an X on it as I drop it on the floor and hit the camera, to represent the leader of the squad. So that can be another squad. We have the other Marines here. And we have this. This is, I was just going around seeing what I could find that was roughly the same size as a Marine base. And this is an end to a curtain rod that I had extra. Just in the apartment, found it. It stands out. If it's with a unit of Marines, you can tell what it is. So that's what I'm going to be using as my Space Marine army for this video. So I move these out of the way. Have a whole bunch of these little glass beads. You can get these at the dollar store. You could use paper if you wanted to, but with 30 of them, it just seemed better to use something like that. So we have a whole bunch of these. We also have a different colored one. This one is going to represent the rocket, or the knob in the squad. We have a red one to represent the rocket launcher. So when they're all grouped together, you can clearly see which ones they are. Then we have some more little glass beads. These ones are white. These are going to be the Gretchen. And this is going to be their leader, so that he clearly stands out from the rest of the unit. Then we have larger glass beads to be used as mega knobs. There's going to be 5 of those. The larger ones you can also write on with a dry erase marker, or if you wanted to use it for multiple times, you could use a permanent marker if you wanted to. And then we have a tea light from the dollar store. Just a little fake candle. This is going to be the stand-in for my Weird Boy. He's on roughly a Terminator size base, so this is actually fairly close, and he's going to go with the Mega Knobs. So that's the basic army for testing out units. The whole purpose is to test the Marines to see if the units are usable. The Mega Knobs are good armor, they're hard to kill, and have multiple wounds. The Weird Boy adds an aspect of the game that you can't really prepare for as much. The Gretchen are weak, but they're not going to come after you, so you have to find a way to go get them. And the giant mob of 30 boys is just going to be a whole bunch of models that you're going to have to go through in order to be able to complete the mission. Speaking of mission, the mission is just going to be simple kill points. For each squad fully destroyed is worth 1 victory point. I won't be doing First Blood, I won't be doing Kill the Warlord, Line Breaker. I won't be using Warlord traits or any of the more, I guess you could say, advanced things for the game. This is just to try and keep things as basic as possible. I'll be playing on a simple wooden kitchen table. It's not a full size, so it's perfect for a small 500-point battle. My terrain is going to be incredibly simple. I'm going to be using boxes. Oh, as I bump the cameras again. Empty plastic cups that have been sitting on my shelf for a long time. These are simply going to be impassable terrain, so the models have to walk around them. They're not allowed to go up top, and they'll just be multiples away, so you have laneways to go through. And last but not least, a Kleenex box, and that's it. The terrain isn't going to be too specific. It's going to be fairly neutral and just simple. The dice, I'll be using a scatter dice because you need a scatter dice for rolling for the missile launcher. Some dice, just whatever dice you have, you can get them at dollar store. Board games come with them. A larger dice, this one is mainly going to be used for wound counters or special weapons if you want to roll at the same time, or if you just like rolling different dice. We have a little measuring stick from GW. Personally, I do not like these at all, simply because they're not very good if you have short range, because you still have the rest of the stick behind you and it can hit models, knock them off the table, stuff like that. But you can use it if it's the only thing you have. If you have a bunch of them, you can actually cut them, so you have individual pieces at different lengths. I'll be using just a basic little measuring tape. This one goes 12 feet, but typically you will never use that, considering the table is 6 feet by 4 feet. And even if you go diagonal, it won't be twice the length of the table. So this is a good size. Yeah, it's just lightweight, clips to your belt. You can hold the handle like really easy. And most importantly, when you pull it out, you can press the button. And it's good that way. So next up, we have templates. I will be using Games Workshop's templates, the simple ones. If you don't have them, this template, the blast template, the little one, is almost the exact same size as a Pringles lid. So if you have the Pringle chips in your grocery stores, you can go out, get some, have some chips, keep the lid. It's even clear plastic, so it works great. The large template is the same size roughly as a CD or DVD or anything of that nature. If you have an old one that's garbage, scratched really bad, anything like that, you can use that. Also, you can use a compass measuring tool, and it's 5 inches total, and this one is 3 inches, I believe. I'll just double check. So 3 inches, so you can just do a 3-inch circle, do it out of cardboard if you want, and 5 inches. The flame template is a little different. If you don't actually have one, it can be quite difficult to use. It is 8 inches long, roughly, just about. So if you have anything like that, width-wise, 2.5 roughly, you can try to make your own if you wanted to, or just go without. So moving up, I'm going to set up the table and deploy the armies, and I'll get back. Okay, so here we have the basic setup and basic deployment. We have, off to this side, we have 2 cups, just to give some terrain. 2 cups over here, just blocking line of sight a little bit. Giant box in here for things to have to go this way or go this way, kind of go around. 1 box over here for them to give cover to so they can get up. The main thing with orcs is they don't have a lot of range, but they do have a lot of numbers. The Space Marine list has its las cannons long range, and the missile launchers on the land speeder are long range. Everything else is mid range. So the orcs have to get really close to the Marines, and the Marines need to stay midfield, because if the orcs make it, the orcs could be in the Marines could be in really big trouble. The other thing I forgot to mention is when rolling dice, you can use a lid to anything. It just adds a thing you can move around the table as you go. And the dice rolls, so the dice stay in the same area and don't fly off the edge onto the floor. So first thing we're going to do is determine which side goes first. I'm going to roll a dice for each side and see who goes first. Okay, so the orcs rolled a 3 and the Marines rolled a 6. It's a little hard to tell from this far away, but I'm going to walk through, go to the shaky cam and walk through what I'm doing for each turn. So first up is going to be Space Marines movement phase. Now the main idea is to have the land speeder just take some pot shots at some orcs, while the las cannon takes another pot shot at some orcs, maybe a mega knob if you can see it, and the Marines over here just kind of move up a little bit and wait for the orcs to move in. And that's pretty much it for the orc movement, or the Space Marine movement. We'll be back in when that's done. Okay, so Space Marine movement was really easy. The las cannon cannot see any mega knobs, so he's just going to take out some boys. The land speeder moved from over here, just to get a clean line to these guys. And these Space Marines with the commander just moved up a little bit. So now we'll go to shooting phase. So with Space Marine shooting, first up we're going to use the land speeder to shoot his missile launchers using the blast template. So first you want to see how many you can get under the template. So with 1 model under the center of the template, I'm choosing to go there. If I roll the hit, I will hit 4 models in the unit. So the first shot, we want to roll the scatter dice as close to the template as possible, just to make sure that if there's an arrow is rolled, it's not going to change the direction. So as I hit the camera, if it's facing this way, it's going this way. But as you move your hand, you can kind of drift this way, which is more like this. And the difference between this and this, from like 30 inches away, can totally change where it lands. So I'm going to roll with 2d6. I'm going to use some bigger dice just so they stand out a little better. So that's a 7 inches. I minus my ballistic skill of 4, so that's going to be 3 inches. So the first one's going to hit 3 models. The second one rolled a hit, so that's going to be 4, for a total of 7 hits. I'm then going to roll 7 dice. It's strength 4 to their toughness 4, so on a 4 plus, they take a wound. Two misses, as I shake the camera again, with 5 wounds, meaning 5 orcs die. So you move from the closest model. And 5 orcs are killed. So moving on to the las cannon that can see 1 model, he's going to hit on a 3. And he misses. And that's it for the Space Marine shooting. You can run models if you want to, but since I don't want the Marines to get really close to the orcs, they're just going to stay where they are. So on to orc movement, turn 1. Okay, before I go to the orc turn, I actually forgot that the land speeder also has a heavy bolter. So I'm going to roll for that now. It has 3 shots. Hitting on 3s, so 2 hit. And strength is higher than their toughness, so it wounds on 3s. So that's 2 wounds, which is 2 more orcs dead. So now we're going to go to the orc movement turn 1. So with orc movement on turn 1, the basic idea is to get everything as close as possible. Nothing's going to be in range because nothing moved up close enough. So they're going to move and probably then run. So I'm going to move them and I'll be right back. So with the orc movement, the orcs have moved up. The Mega Knobs and Weird Boy have decided to go that way. The Grots have decided to kind of stick around here. And the big group of boys just decided to move up. So when I was doing the beginning stages, I made a mistake. I should have rolled for the Orc Weird Boy special power. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, he's rolled 2, which is Warpath. All models in the unit have +1 attack, which combined with the Mega Knobs can be really powerful. He also has the Primus power, which is a 24-inch range witch fire, which targets the enemy. So with the psychic phase, you roll a single d6. I rolled a 6. Each side gets that many dice, and you then gain +1 dice for every psyker, level psyker you have. So Space Marines get 6. Orcs get 6. And then because orcs have a level 1 psyker, they get 1 more. If they had a level 2 psyker, they would have gained 2 more instead. So next we check range. I'm just going to see if the Frazzle is within range. It is within range, so he's going to attempt to cast it. So it needs a minimum of 1. So out of a possible 7 dice, all he needs to do is roll a single 4+. So I'm going to roll 5 dice, just to make sure it goes off. So I rolled a 4, a 5, a 3, and 2 1s. So it goes off with 2. So now, because I have nothing else within range, or nothing else that will affect the game, the Space Marine side is going to roll all of its dice, and it requires a 6 for every successful dice I rolled. I rolled 2 1s, 2 2s, a 3, and a 5, so it was unsuccessful to deny, so it goes off. So it has a small blast template, so I'll place that now. So placing the template, it can't actually fit due to the cups, but you just hold it above the models. So by placing it on the first model, it can hit 3 models if it rolls a hit. I then roll the scatter dice with 2 dice. I rolled an arrow with a 3 and a 2, which is 5. I then reduce my ballistic skill of 2, leaving me with 3 inches. The template is then moved 3 inches, which actually covers 3 models, and then we roll to wound. 3 dice are used because 3 models were hit. It's strength 6 to their toughness 4, so it's a 2+ to wound. So with 3 2+s, 3 wounds have been inflicted. Because there's no intervening models, because the Weird Boy is a part of the Meganob squad, there's no cover saves allowed. And because it's AP3, 3 models are actually removed as casualties. So because they lost a bunch of models, they have to take a leadership test, and if they fail, they can run away. I rolled an 8, and they have leadership 9 or 10, so they are fine. We now move on to the orc shooting phase. The psychic phase is a separate part from the shooting phase. So now, because none of their guns are within range, all of the models are going to choose to run, which means we choose a unit and we roll a dice, and that's how many inches they go. So I'm going to roll and then move them off camera just to make things quicker. The Mega Knobs and Weird Boy are going to move 5 inches. The Grots are going to move 2 inches. And the Big Brick Boys are also going to move 5 inches. I'm going to move them up and we'll be back. So here we are after movement. You can just make out the front of the Mega Knobs coming from behind that terrain. The Grots have moved up to hide, and the Orcs have just moved up. Now, the reason why the Grots are kind of hiding is because this game is we're doing kill points, which means each unit is worth 1 point. The Mega Knobs are worth a point, the Weird Boy is worth a point, the Gretchen are worth a point, and the Orcs are worth a point. That means the Orcs only have 4 points available, where the Space Marines have their Commander, their Tactical Marines, their Legion of the Damned, and their Land Speeder for 5. So if the Grots stay back and hide, they have a better chance of only allowing 3 points to go through, making it harder for the Space Marine players to win. Okay, so now we have Space Marines turn 2, but before movement, we have to roll for reserves for the Legion of the Damned. I rolled a 5, which means they come in. So when rolling for reserves, you place a model of the unit you want, where you want the unit to go. You then roll the scatter dice to see where they go from there, with 2 dice. A hit was rolled, So you then place models one at a time in base contact with that model and work your way around. So I will place those and be right back. So with the models placed around the main one with the X, we then move on to Space Marine's movement phase. So first up, this land speeder is going to move around. It's probably going to move over to this area or maybe over here, take some more shots just to reduce the number of models here. The commander is then going to move up because of the danger to the mega knobs due to the meltas, and these guys are just going to keep shooting. If they have line of sight, they may shoot the knobs. If not, they'll just keep shooting with them. Some of the basic Marines might move up just to get in within range. I'll move them and I'll be back. Okay, so Space Marine turn 2. Let's move the camera a little bit. You can see the land speeder with the commander and 2 Marines behind it for cover. Cover save basically means you are behind a unit, so there's a chance that it won't hit you. These Marines here kind of conga lined up. The las cannon didn't move so that it can still shoot at regular ballistic skill. But these Marines, these 4, are now within range of these guys so that they can shoot and possibly kill some models. These models are basically all or nothing into them for hopes that they might be able to kill some. So on to the shooting phase. We're going to start with these Marines into the orcs. I've already measured it out. They are within 24 but not within 12. So there's going to be 4 shots. They hit on 3s and wound on 4s. So with only 1 wound, only 1 model dies. So now we remove a model. And now we roll for the las cannon. The las cannon hits on a 3 and wounds on a 2. The model hits. And of course, does not wound. So moving on, we can then go to the land speeder to see how many it can hit with the template. So there isn't too many great spots for it because of the angle that it's on. It can't hit these models over here. So there's probably your best bet. A hit will get 3 models. So that was an arrow with a 2 and a 1. Because the ballistic skill is 4, we reduce 4 from that, and it's a hit. The second one is an arrow with a 1 and a 1, resulting in another hit. So a total of 6 models hit. We then roll 6 dice, and on a 4+, a model is removed. 1, 2, 2 3s, and 2 6s. 2 more orcs die. We then move to the heavy bolter, which is 3 shots. Again, these are hitting on 3s and wounding on 3s. And with my lovely rolling, no casualties. Next, we're going to move up to the Marines over here, shooting at the mega knobs. Going to check to see if they were within 12. They are not within 12, so they were doing a single shot. And because they are shooting through a unit, they will give a cover save, which in this case doesn't really matter because their 2+ save is better. Actually, because of the knobs having 2 wounds each, I'm actually going to start with the Legion of the Damned, because with their meltas they can instant kill a model. So if I do cause a wound with the Space Marines, they then get insta-killed with the melta, and they only take 2 wounds instead of a possible 3. So I'm going to roll both dice at the same time. because there's no extra Melta bonus for being close range on infantry. So 2 models are going to hit on 3s, wound on 2s. So 1 hit and 1 wound. So because there's no cover and they don't have an invulnerable save, 1 2-wound model is now removed. So the remainder of the squad are going to shoot their bolters. So the commander has a bolt pistol, and the 2 other Marines have bolters, so 5 shots, hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s. 3 of them hit, 2 of them wounded. The Mega Knobs, similar to Terminators, have a 2+ armor save. So on a 1 they take a wound, anything else they're fine. So with my typical orc rolling, we get a wound. So 1 model takes 1 wound. So now I'm going to take another small dice and put this near the model. So with him wounded, now the Space Marines are going to shoot with 3 shots. Hitting on 3s, 2 1s and a 5. Wounding on a 4. Wound. So now they have a 2+ save. If they fail this, they would take a wound. If I had have done it in the other order, they would have only killed 1 model and 1 wound. But it is passed. So the Legion of the Damned has shot, the Marines have shot, the Land Speeder has shot, and these Marines have shot. So that ends Space Marines turn 2. So Orc turn 2. The main plan is for the boys to just keep advancing up. The Grots are going to stay where they are, maybe move up just a little bit. The Mega Knobs are going to come out and prepare for a charge against the Legion of the Damned. So I'm going to go ahead and move them, and I'll be back. So the Orc movement phase was really simple. Orcs advanced 6 inches. Grots kind of just moved in a little bit more. And the little L shape for the Mega Knobs so that they can shoot and still be close enough to get their assault. So in the Psychic phase, the Weird Boy is going to attempt to shoot them because they're AP3, which they do have a 3+ invulnerable save, but being bunched up like that, putting a template there can be really effective. And if it scatters onto the knobs, they have a 2+ save, so they should survive. And even if wounds do get through, they'll still have 2 wounds, so they should still survive. They're then going to shoot in the shooting phase. So we'll determine the power dice for the Psychic phase. Each side gets 3 dice. And +1 for the Orc side. Oh, as I drop them. So 4 dice total for the Orcs. They're going to use all 4 to... Actually, because I didn't roll very high, they're only going to use the one that gives them +1 attack. That way in hand-to-hand, they have more attacks. So we're going to try that. They need a single 4+, and they get 4, meaning the Orcs, or the Marines, only have 3 dice. Even if they rolled all 6s, they cannot stop it. So the Orcs, Mega Knobs, and Weird Boy now have +1 attack each. So that will be very effective in the assault phase. So now for shooting, these Orcs have 2 choices. They can use their single rocket, hitting on a 5+, to attempt to take out the Land Speeder, or they can run, try to close the gap on these guys. They're going to run. So I'm going to roll them after I roll the shooting for the Mega Knobs. So they have 2 shots each, giving them 8 shots total. The Weird Boy does not have a gun, and their ballistic skill is really bad, so they're going to hit on 5s. So that was 3 hits. They now wound on 4s. with a single wound. The Space Marine, or the Legion of the Damned, now have a 3+ invulnerable save, so we have a 3 up. With a 5, they are fine. I'm now going to run to see how far, or roll to see how far the orcs run. They roll 5. I will move them and be back right before the assault phase. So now the orcs have moved all the way up here, and they are really close to the Marines now. So the orcs are now going to charge these guys, the Mega Knobs, versus the Legion of the Damned. The Legion of the Damned are now going to overwatch. So there's going to be 2 shots. Oh, 2 shots for rapid firing bolter, 2 shots for rapid firing bolter, 1 shot for a pistol. These are all going to hit on 6s. None of them hit. I'm then going to roll 2 dice for the Melta, 1 for the Melta, 1 for the multi-Melta. They also need 6s. None of them hit, so the overwatch was unsuccessful. Now the knobs get to assault. A 2 and a 2 is total of 4 inches, which is more than enough. Orcs have a special rule where they can re-roll one of them, but because it's not needed, we won't roll it. So with the models in base to base, we now move to hand to hand. The Space Marines have higher initiative, so they get to go first. And this is where you can issue a challenge, which the Weird Boy is going to issue a challenge just because he has no reason not to. So the leader has accepted, and the rest have moved into base contact with models. So we're going to start off with the challenge. Space Marine Sergeant has... actually, I will be right back. Okay, I just had to check to make sure that all of the Legion of the Damned did have 2 attacks base, which they do. So first up, we have the Sergeant, which has 2 attacks based, and +1 for having a pistol and close combat weapon. He's going to hit on 3s, hitting 2. And with a strength of 4 to toughness 4, he's going to wound on 4s. So both wound. The Weird Boy now has a 6+ save. He only has 2 wounds, so this could kill him. Oh, getting suspenseful. And he lives. So he takes a single wound. So I will take another wound marker. Actually, go with a blue one. And put a single wound next to him. Now the Legion get to attack. They have 2 attacks each for a total of 8 attacks. They get to hit on 3s as well. Actually, I will just double check. Yes, they get to hit on... Actually, I'll be right back. Okay, so the Legion of the Damned Sergeant has weapon skill 5, but the Legionnaires only have 4. So they are going to hit on 4s. So with 3 hits, they're going to wound on 4s. With 1 wound. Now the Mega Knobs have a single 2+ save. And of course, they fail. Now, there is some talk about who to allocate to, and the rules say that you pick any model in base contact, and you start taking wounds with them. Meaning I do not have to take the model that already has a wound, and I can put another wound on another model. Now, if this is wrong, please let me know in the comments below, but that's what these guys are going to do. Okay? So now that all of the initiative 4 has gone with the Marines, now we go to the Weird Boy. The Weird Boy is has 3 attacks base. He has +1 because he charged, and he has +1 because of the psychic power. His weapon skill is lower, so he's going to hit on 4s. He's going to get 4 hits. Now, his base strength is 4. He has +1 strength for Furious Charge because he charged for 5. And his staff gives him +2 for a total of 7. Meaning he has strength 7 to toughness 4. He wounds on a 2. So that's 4 wounds caused. Now it's not a power weapon, so regular saves are allowed, but Legion of the Damned have a 3-up invulnerable save and regular, so it's just the same. So he has to make 4 3+ saves. He does not, so he is killed. So with that, the rest of the knobs get to attack. They have 3 attacks base, +1 because they charged, and +1 because of the psychic power. So 5 attacks each for 20 attacks. So with all these dice, they're going to hit on 4s. And because they're strength 8, because they're power claws, they're going to wound on 2s. So that's a lot of wounds caused. Now the Space Marines are going to take their 3+ invulnerable save. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 armor saves failed. The whole unit is destroyed. So with that, the knobs now get to move d6 inches. Roll. They get to move 5 inches. I'll move them and I'll be right back. So that is, I moved the knobs 5 inches closer because they're ready to fight. So now on to Space Marines turn 3. It's not looking too good for them. Losing the Legion of the Damned was probably a bad choice of putting them so close, especially before we were able to do enough damage to the squad. Putting them behind would be a higher risk, but we'd have a higher chance of taking out the Weird Boy. So now for the movement phase, we're going to go a little bit of a retreat mode or focus on these guys. So the Marines here are going to come out, flame them, and try to assault. And then these Marines are going to just shoot to try and take some out. And the Land Speeder is going to retreat and shoot them as well. We're going to try and do as much damage to them as we can, and I'll be back after movement. So Space Marine movement phase, the Marines moved out, the Land Speeder moved over, and the Marines stayed where they are. So now they're going to shoot using the flame template first, just to get templates that can cover models that will be killed early first. So he can hit 4 models, strength 4, so they wound on 4s with no saves. So we're going to kill 2 orcs. Now the sergeant and the commander are also going to shoot. Now because they want to assault, only the sergeant can shoot with his pistol, because the commander has a bolter, combi bolter, so he won't be able to assault after. So 1 shot, it hits, and it wounds. So 1 more, closest model is removed. Next we're going to go with range, and we're going to do the Marines first. Some of them are within rapid fire range. So we measure 12 inches. So it looks like 3 Marines are within rapid fire for 6 shots. Oh, knocked the camera a bit. And 1 is in single shot range. So they're going to hit on 3s. and they're going to wound on 4s. So it's going to be 3 more dead orcs. And the next closest is the rocket, so he's removed. Next up, we have the land speeder. He's going to focus on the center, where if he rolls a hit, he will be able to hit 4. The clearance box is a bit in the way, so it's a little hard to see, but so the first one's a direct hit, and so is the second one. So that's going to be 8 total. So on a 4+, so 4 more orcs die. Now the knob is the closest, so he can either look out, sir, or take them. So he's going to do a lookout, sir. So on a 4+, it goes to another model. That one does not, he takes a single wound. That one does, another model is removed. The next one is looked out onto another model. And lastly, no, so he is killed. Next up, we have the heavy bolter with 3 shots. All 3 hit. And only 1 wound, so 1 more dead. So that ends Space Marine shooting. So now the orcs have to make a leadership test because they lost a whole bunch of guys. Without their knob, they only have a leadership of 7, which they fail. So when the orcs fail, they roll on the table. So we roll a single d6. And 6 is squabble. If the unit has 10 or more models, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, it does have 10, it suffers d6 strength 4 hits. So it takes 5 hits, wounding on a 4, no wounds, and then counts as passing its test. So they are going to stay there. So now with them staying there, the Space Marine Sergeant Commander is going to assault. So with 10 models being in the unit, they can then get to Overwatch. They need 6s to hit. With 2 hits. They then need a 4+ to wound, and they get 1. So Space Marine Commander is going to choose to take it on his 3+ save, which he makes. The Space Marines then charge 5 inches, and they needed a 6. So that is a failed charge, so they have to stay there. On to orcs, turn 3. So with the orcs, they're choosing to, the knobs are going to ignore the commander, and they're going to go after the land speeder. Because it's within enough range that they can move and then charge to get there, the orcs are going to move up and assault the commander, and that's going to be it. They're not going to shoot, except for some of the mega knobs, and the orcs, well, actually, no, they all will shoot. So, movement first, and we'll be back for shooting. Okay, so what I've decided to do is the weird boy decided to leave the knobs and join the orcs. Because the knobs don't need any assistance taking out the land speeder, and the orcs might attempt to use the psychic power to give them +1 attack, and the weird boy wants to fight the commander. He probably won't win, but at least it'll be fun if he does. So movement is done, now onto the psychic phase. Each side is going to get 1 dice. So the weird boy is going to attempt to give +1 attack. He gets it with 2, meaning the Space Marines cannot stop it. So now on to the shooting phase. The orcs are going to shoot 10 shots into the commander. They hit on 5s. And they wound on 4s. 1 wound. They then get a single armor save, which they make. The knobs are then going to shoot at the land speeder. They need 5s to hit. They then need 6s to glance. So before you roll, your opponent gets to, actually I think it's before you roll the hit. They, if it's a skimmer, they have a choice to jink. Because odds are they're going to destroy it in hand to hand, there's no point in jinking, or you can jink in hopes that they fail. So I'm going to jink because I don't think I'm going to be able to shoot, and I need to choose survivability over anything else. So 6s to glance, no glances. So it is jinking, so if it's still there, it will snap fire next turn. That's it for shooting. Now the assault phase. The mega knobs are going to go first, giving more room for the orcs to go in. So they have 2 dice, and with a roll of a 6, they're definitely going to make it. Now the orcs, they're going to shoot, which means the Marines get to overwatch. Starting with the flamer, D3. 1, so 1 orc is hit, wounded on a 4+, no. The commander is then going to use his 2 shots for his bolter, no shots, and a bolt pistol from the sergeant, which isn't. The orcs then get to go 9 inches, so they are definitely going to make it in. So close combat, we're going to start with the weird boy. He's going to issue a challenge, and the commander will accept. The commander gets to go first. He has 4. I'll be right back with some more info. Okay, he's a captain, so he has 3 attacks. Hits on 3s. All 3 hit. Wounds on 4s. 2 wounds. And if it's a power weapon, it kills him. If not, he would have a 6-up save, which he failed anyway, so the weird boy is now dead. Next up, we move to the Marines. We have 2 attacks for the sergeant, and 1 attack for the Marine. They hit on 4s. All hit, and they hit on 4s, and now they wound on 4s. So 1 wound. So now the orcs have a 6+ save, which they fail. So now with 2 attacks base, +1 for the charge, +1 for having 2 close combat weapons, and +1 for the weird boy psychic power, they have 5 attacks each, with 9 models total. So this will be the first wave of 5. They need 4s to hit and 4s to wound. So with that many wounds, I'm going to take armor saves so that I might not have to worry about rolling all those other dice. So because everyone has a 3-up, I'm just going to roll them all the same. Okay, so the way I interpret it, everything goes at the initiative step. So right now, 2 wounds means 2 Marines die. Now, because the commander was in a challenge, but currently is not, the way I interpret the rules is he would then take those 2 wounds, putting him down to a single wound. And now because, actually the wounds in his would actually carry over, so 1 more orc would die. Now because the orcs won by, so 2 orcs died, the weird boys, for 3. The 2 wounds on him, so Space Marines lost by 1, they take a leadership test, which they pass. So the orcs now pile in. So now on to the knob combat. They have 3 base, plus 1 for charging. They need 3s to hit. And because they have a power fist, they have double strength, so strength 8, plus 1 for the charge is 9. So they're going to glance on 1s and pens on anything else. So there's only a single 1, so it's definitely destroyed. So we add 1 to this because it's AP 2, so on a roll of a 6 it blows up. So we did roll a 6, so it blows up D6 inches. 1 inch. So the knobs would actually move in at their initiative step, so it's going to hit all 4. 4 plus to wound. 2 wounds. 2 plus armor save. They're fine. So now with that removed, that ends the orc turn. So now with the Space Marine turn, there's not too many options. These Marines are going to back up and all shoot the knobs, hopefully kill a couple. And that's it for movement. So I'll be back when that's done. Okay, so the movement was really easy. They move back. They're all within rapid fire range now. And the las cannon did not move. So because the mega knobs have a unwounded model first, we're going to shoot the las cannon first. He's going to hit on a 3, which hits, and he's going to wound on a 2. He wounds. Now, because he wounded, the AP of his weapon does not allow a save, so the first closest mega knob is now dead. And that's 2 wounds instead of 1. So now the rest are going to rapid fire. For 8 shots total. Hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s. So with my awesome dice rolls, 2 wounds. Now the way the knobs are positioned, the closest 2 models already have a wound taken, so any wound will kill the model. No wounds. So now we move on to close combat with the commander. He has 3 attacks, hitting on 3s, 2 hits, and wounding on 4s. Nothing. So the orcs have 2 attacks base, plus 1 for close combat weapons, and there's 8 of them. And this is why getting in the hand-to-hand with orcs can be problematic. So they need 4s to hit, and because it's the second round of combat, they don't have Furious Charge. They're down to strength 3, so they need 4s to hit and 5s to wound. Reroll. So those hit. And with my awesome rolling, only 1 wound. So he now has a 3+ save, which he makes. They stay in combat. So now we go on to the orc turn. The Mega Knobs are going to move up, and they're going to attempt to assault the Space Marines. And that's movement. So they're not going to worry about shooting, because if they kill the closest Marine, they're going to reduce their charge range by just a little bit. So you can measure first. Right there they need a 5. Right there they need a 6. So it's in their best interest not to shoot. So they need a 5 in order to make it, and they make it. So shooting's done, there is no psychic phase, assaults are in, now we go to combat. So we're going to start off with the knobs. So we have 5 attacks from the Marines first, hitting on 4s, all but 1 hit, and wounding on 4s. 1 wound. They have a 2-up save, which they make. They have 3 attacks, plus 1 for the charge. They hit on 4s. And they kill on 2+. So with that, 8 wounds caused, and only 5 models, they're all dead. I'll remove them in a minute and move to the commander. Commander has 3 attacks. He hit with 1. And he wounds on a 4. And he kills an orc. Doesn't matter which one. They then have 2 attacks base. 1 for 2 weapons. And there's 7 of them. They need 4s and then 5s. And 5s. 1 wound again. So on a 1 or a 2, the game's over. And it's over. He's dead. So that is an orc victory, and we'll be right back. Okay, so now we have our awesome Space Marine army. So going over the game, it was a loss for the Space Marines. The list was your average list. The whole thing about armies like orcs is if you don't have something to deal with large numbers, they have a chance to get there, and once they get there, they can really do some damage. So the main thing is the playstyle was a test. Everything was testing just to see how things would work. So the Legion of the Damned probably should have gone back further, maybe picked on the grots for a bit and then moved towards the knobs. The Marines probably should have not moved towards the guy with blast template that just kills them all. Better use of cover maybe. Using the land speeder as a cover, like to move in front. There's tactics that could have been done better. But all in all, the rollings were also bad, or average bad. But it was on both sides, so it wasn't a big deal. The main thing was the Marines should not have gone as quickly towards the orcs as they did, which is the whole point of the game. So if that was someone learning to play the game, they learned a valuable lesson of don't run at the, huge giant squads of guys. Keeping the land speeder back was a good idea. It would have been better to keep it a little further back so that the mega knobs couldn't, take out a squad, move closer. So learning things like that is why playing in this style is good if you're new to the game. Obviously, if you have models, that's what you would use. Actually, be right back. All right, I'm back. So, as I was saying, this is just an absolute basic test if you're brand new to the game. For example, if you did this exact thing and you decided you really liked what the orcs just did, you might decide that's kind of the style you want to go. You can then do a test game with Imperial Guard, orcs, Tyranids, anything that has large numbers. Or you might decide, okay, the Legion of the Damned didn't work, switch them out for more guys. The land speeder didn't work, switch it out for a tank. Maybe you want to try some scouts. You can go anywhere from there. This is just the absolute basics of moving around the table. It's also a method just to practice, just to memorize basic models, move 6 inches. You can run D6, and then when you kill a unit, you can go another D6 after a 3-inch pile-in. So if you put out units out front as a screen, sometimes armies can use that to launch themselves. So they move up, they get a really long lucky charge off, they kill the whole unit, they then move an extra D6 inches. They can really get to you fast. So just simple things like that. My next battle report is going to be with this exact same Space Marine list, but not with pieces of wood or paper. My Space Marine Commander is work in progress. A video on him should be up before the battle report. I'm trying to build all the models and prime them, post the videos, and then do another battle report with the models like this. So we have this guy here is just a Space Marine. He will replace that Space Marine. We have another Space Marine. Bolters are off because they're being primed separately. He'll replace him. Marine Leader Flamer. So we have, see if it goes in focus. Kind of wants to. There's the leader. So we have a leader. We have the flamethrower guy and another Marine. So that's a big difference than a couple pieces of paper. The terrain was pretty basic, so it wasn't a huge, line of sight based on them being pieces of paper. But I will have a built army and probably primed. Some of them might not be primed just for tutorial purposes. Also the las cannon. I'm not sure if the orc list will change or not yet. I do have a weird boy. He's primed and ready to go. I have grots ready to go. They have some color on them but not finished. But I don't own mega knobs, although with this test I'm seriously considering getting some. They are really expensive right now, but I might do some conversions with regular knobs. But they performed really well. So those are the kinds of things that I hope the viewers can learn about this battle report. Obviously, it wasn't super informative on special rules, tactics, anything like that. Its sole purpose is for you to find a way to practice using what you think you might like, to determine whether or not you want to buy it and spend the money, put the time in to build, paint, and continue playing. If you already have an army, you can, by all means, play with built models, painted models, anything. You could even say regular Marines that aren't painted are your Marines, and the ones you have that are painted are your Legion of the Damned or veterans or anything like that, to see if you want to expand into that unit. So that's this battle report. Orcs won. It actually was a lot closer than it seemed. If the dice rolls had been a little bit better for the Space Marines, Or even if actual orc models had been used, they might have been closer together or further apart, depends on how you strategize against that. But more of them could have died. Some critical saves could have been made. Legion of the Damned have a 3+ invulnerable, so they do have the option to tank a whole bunch of shots. So they could have survived a bunch of those power claws. And if a single one of them had have survived, it would have locked them in combat, which would have given the Marines a chance to shoot an extra round into the orcs, possibly killing them and moving away, giving a lot more space, giving an extra round of shooting. The land speeder would have been able to fly away and stay alive and just pick away at things. It could have gone completely different, but exactly the right number of failed saves to kill the Legion. So completely wipe them out. Could have made the whole game right there. But that's the whole point of playing games like this, is epic events that could have gone either way, deciding how it ends. So the orcs did win. The Marines did have a chance. It wasn't super one-sided. If the Marines had have had a land raider, they could have just shot las cannons at the knobs and moved away, and there wouldn't have been much of a game. So hopefully someone can find this informative in any way. The next battle report will be this Space Marine Army. I might choose another list just to go over some other options and strategies. It might be the exact same with some proxies for the Mega Knobs. I'm not sure. Just to show how it could go differently, if it goes differently at all. Coming up on my channel in a little while, closer in on him, the chest, legs, arms, or arm and gun are different from this Assault on Blackreach conversion. It's a little bit of gap filling needs to go in there, and he'll be good to go. I have a video on making him, just some basic conversions, and some basics on a video on these guys of cleaning a model, getting the mold lines off, stuff like that. Those videos are almost ready. I just have to prime these guys, green stuff him, prime him, and those videos will be good to go. So hopefully within a week or two, with everything going on, that should be up. I'm going to move on to the land speeder, and then to the Legion of the Damned, which I am doing conversions for. I'm going to be using the Dark Vengeance Dark Angel models and converting them into my own personal Legion of the Damned converted models. So hopefully you'll enjoy those, and hopefully they'll be up sooner rather than later. And I hope you enjoyed. See you next time.